Jury selection is now complete in Donald Trump's hush money trial. 12 jurors and 6 alternates have been seated, and opening statements, those are expected to begin on Monday. Security is tight around the Manhattan courthouse, but that didn't stop a disturbing incident from taking place earlier this afternoon. Reporter Sally Patterson is on the scene with more on the day's events. Just a warning for people watching this, Sally, that the details are disturbing here. Can you tell us about what happened?
They certainly are. Just behind me, down the road in front of the court where Donald Trump's criminal trial is underway, a man walked into the park, walked into the center of the park. He is understood to have taken out a bag where he pulled out pamphlets, threw them next to him, lit himself on fire. That's the details that we're hearing from the police, who gave a press conference just moments ago. And we're starting to hear more details about what happened. We understand this happened at about 1:30 a.m. Many onlookers here, and in fact many of the media who have been camped outside for the past week, saw this incident take place. They saw a man who was on fire. Onlookers came to the rescue. They tried to put him out with their coats and with extinguishers, anything they could find, to try and stop those flames. The police were understood to be on the scene in minutes. They used extinguishers to put the flames out. The man has been named as Maxwell Azzariello, and he is from Florida. He arrived in New York City this week, and he's now in hospital. He's in the Cornell burn unit, where he's in a critical condition. The police say that there's no security breach here, and here's what they had to say just moments ago.
The victim is in critical condition but is alive and intubated at Cornell Burn Center at this time. There were 3 NYPD officers and 1 court officer, so 4 officers who had minor injuries from their exposure to the fire. They are all fine, they are stable, and they are green tags, which is minor at this time. We were on scene, as the chief mentioned. EMS did treat and transport the patient, and we do have our fire marshals here helping with the investigation.
Now, we don't have a motive necessarily for why this took place earlier on Friday. We do know that on the leaflets that this man is understood to have thrown around him, there were conspiracy-based theories on there. It referred to things like evil billionaires and content of that type, but we're being careful here, as police are, to not give a motive just yet on why this took place.
Yeah, so Sally, I mean, it happened across from the courthouse where this Trump trial is taking place, but we don't know if there was any relation to it in terms of the man who lit himself on fire. I wonder, though, regarding the trial, I mentioned the jury has been selected. Can you tell us about how all of that unfolded today?
Well, there had been suggestions that jury selection in this trial could take up to 2 weeks. That's what we were hearing right back at the beginning of the week, because, as you can imagine, finding a group of jurors who are unbiased when it comes to talking about the former president of the United States is no easy feat. But that's what we've seen happen here in New York over the past week. Hundreds of potential jurors on hand to potentially be the ones to decide Donald Trump's fate in the coming weeks. This case is expected to take 6 to 8 weeks, and we now have the people who are going to make those decisions. 12 jurors in total, plus 6 alternates. At the end of Thursday, we'd seen all of the jury itself, plus 1 of the alternates selected, and then the final 5 selected on Friday. They were asked a series of questions about their political beliefs, where they got their news, whether they'd ever been to a Trump rally, for example, all things that would help determine where they sit on the political spectrum, and if they would be able to rule in this trial in an unbiased way. The prosecution and defense were understandably keen to make sure that those deciding the future of the former president's, of what will happen to him, making sure that they were neutral in those decisions. We saw some jurors break down in tears earlier in the day. They said that this was a very anxiety-inducing experience. Some of them were very nervous, but that full selection has now been made. Now, earlier we heard from Donald Trump himself speaking outside the courtroom, once again slamming the decisions made in this in this trial. Here's what he had to say.
I'm not allowed to speak, and I want to be able to speak to the press and everybody else about it. So why am I gagged about telling the truth? I'm only telling the truth. They're not telling the truth. The judge has to take off this gag order. It's very, very unfair that my constitutional rights have been taken away.
Now, Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to all of the 34 different counts against him in this case. We're expecting the real proceedings to kick off on Monday. Back to you.
Okay, we'll be watching for that as well. Sally, thanks so much. That's reporter Sally Patterson in New York.